Welcome to the Coffee Watches Whiskey Podcast, where every day starts with a fresh cup of good coffee, a watch to help you get through it, and a whiskey to celebrate another blessed day. So welcome to episode 1. Today I'm going to be doing a blind tasting. I'm actually sitting outside in shorts mid-December with my dog sitting next to a solo stove. It really doesn't get much better than this. It's a windy day here in northeast New England, so bear with me with the audio. And this is also my first time ever doing a podcast by myself, so bear with me as this can be a little awkward, but we're going to jump right into it. Currently, as I discussed before, we're going to touch upon EDC a little bit. I'm outside, so I'm carrying my brass Bic lighter with butane insert. For a knife, I have the Carryology collab with Giant Mouse. That's my pocket knife holder today. And I'm carrying the new Olay Arc Pro. And then I got the O-Clip Pro engraved with the Glencairn glass, always on my right hip pocket there. And then I got the Mighty Hank in the back pocket. So just a little update on what occurred this week. On Monday, it was going to be considered like whiskey week, but I had something fall through Wednesday, so I kind of unfortunately didn't get a chance to do that. But on Monday, I went to a charity tasting event in Connecticut, and it was all the proceeds went to the CT Special Olympics. So we actually got to try Old Carter, Old Sport, which is actually donated and generously by a gentleman in the front row. Canadian Club 44 year. Yep, that is correct. 44 years old. I guess it's owned by Beam Suntory now, which has been alive or open for 46 years. So it's 2 years after they opened. 44 year. Victor's 10-year bourbon, Victor's 10-year rye, which both I've never tried before. Weller 12 and E.H. Taylor single barrel. On Tuesday, I get to go to my part-time job on site and do a little on-site distillery hands-on work. So I did some barrel repairing. Unfortunately, we had a still down due to a furnace being out. That kind of caused a little bit of chaos, but I'm not going to get into that. This week, I also finished a bottle of BMD Maple Bourbon and Green River Wheated Full Proof. And this week, I also added to the collection the Willett Family Estate 4-year bourbon. It's the barrel proof version, it's the purple top, as well as the Benchmark 8, and that's going to be used for with old fashions for Christmas gifts. This week I had a tasting for my part-time job out in the Boston area on Saturday, and then actually on Monday, I'm a member of the CT Bourbon Bastards group, and they did a barrel pick for the Augusta Distillery. It's the Buckner's 13-year single barrel Hazmat edition, so I'll be going to pick that up on Monday night, and I actually went in half with my brother-in-law, so hopefully going to find a way to split that effectively. But really looking forward to that first ever Hazmat. But I think it was like a previous bourbon of the year. I forgot which year it was, but really excited to try that. So like I said, it's about mid-December. It's actually midday. I'm on vacation from my full-time job. We're going to do a tasting, just myself, blind tasting. My wife has selected a bottle from my collection, which, as everyone may know, is quite small, 100 plus bottles on Only Tramps. I'll leave you my handle in there eventually if anyone's interested in adding me as a friend. So how I'm going to do the format of this, we're going to do a blind tasting. Right now she has put an ounce in 4 separate glasses, 2 Glencairns and 2 rocks glasses. So the first round is going to be neat, second will be water added, third will be on the rocks, and then the fourth will actually be old fashioned. And the fifth section will be called the hunting scene, and that's where we're going to break down MSRP, price, scene, and availability, and what you buy. So in each category of the first 4, where each has a dedicated glass, neat will be worth 10 points, water added will be worth 10 points, on the rocks 10 points as well, old fashioned 10 points as well. And then the hunting scene is going to break and equal up to a total of 10 points. It's going to be MSRP for 3, price scene for 3, availability for 3, and then would you buy again for 3. Correction on that, it'll be would you buy again for 1, totaling 10 points. 3, 3, 3, and 1. Alright, let's get right into it. So I'm using a Glen for the neat version. Get a few swirls. Again, I'm outside, so color and taste could be a little off, and honestly, it's not the best tasting, especially outside. It looks to be like medium to lighter side, and with a couple swirls, it seems to have some legs, with decent viscosity there. I'm getting a lot of solo stove fires on the nose to start. I'm gonna jump in there and give it a little sip to see. Guessing it's going to be a bourbon off the first sip. I feel like it's got to be a little bit on the lower proof, as usually the first sip kind of opens you up, and it didn't really burn too much. I'm going to guess off the first sip maybe between 90 to 105 max, and if it's above that, it's definitely drinking a lot less. Very approachable though. Very light. This is an interesting one. I'm gonna... Give me 1 second on this one. Let me think. The second sip there definitely gave a little bit more of the ethanol burn at the end. So maybe it is a little higher proof than I'm expecting. I'm gonna guess now like between 95 and maybe 110. Very approachable for neat. Definitely could see myself drinking this one. Getting a little bit of cherry on it. It's usually when I get like cherry or grape, I usually think it's something from the Buffalo Trace line, and the color looks like it could be something from there. But again, this is totally fully blind, and as I always say, taste is super subjective, so how I feel about it is just how I feel, and how you feel is completely how you feel. There's nothing wrong with anybody's taste. I'm just giving you my open and honest opinions on blind tasting. I almost want to guess too that actually it could be like a Wild Turkey product, but the color looks a little lighter. And I don't know, I always feel like Wild Turkey has that almost reddish color to my eyes. This feels like it could be like a Buffalo Trace, or it could be a Bardstown product. They have quite a bit of the Origin Series line, so I wonder if it's that. Let me just give you my final score for neat. I think I'm going to go with a 7.4 for my neat score. And then we are going to add in a few drops, just enough to like slightly open it up if there is anything. I did leave a fair amount in the glass, so I can go back. I always kind of feel I do feel like, as in general, to be fully transparent and upfront, I tend to like things neat. So I prefer them obviously old-fashioned second, and if I absolutely have it's on the rocks, then water added. Sometimes water can make a difference, but I find this makes much of a difference. Again, I added about 3 drops. Not much of a color change. Viscosity really hasn't changed as well. I almost feel like the nose kind of got flatter, but let's go in for a small little draft. I do feel like it made a little bit of a difference. In all my previous tastings I've ever done, usually adding water has not done anything but decrease it, but I'll tell you what, that almost enhanced it. Which, again, I don't know enough about it, but I almost wonder if it's maybe a little bit of a younger bourbon. But let's see. Another sip here. Again, I'm getting so much smell from the fire, so lesson learned on this one. I probably shouldn't do this fireside moving forward, or this close to the fire, but it is a smaller stove, and it's getting a little chillier now. My dog is certainly enjoying it out here. It's actually pretty good with a little bit of water added. Let me just tally up my score on that one. And just another note too, I did add a different category than I usually would do. It's called mouthfeel. So I always say like mouthfeel it's 2 parts. It's when it hits your mouth originally, and then how long it stays. And so like a good example would be like you get something and it's super hot. So it's like usually low, medium, and high in the first part, and then it's how long it lingers. So like I kind of tend to like ones that hit medium and then maybe go long, but it kind of draws it out and then slowly drops off. I think that's really neat. So I'm going to say on both of these so far, the mouthfeel is kind of like low to probably low in my palate. It's nothing too crazy. but it's very approachable, very tasty, nothing wrong with it. For water added, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 6.5. Nothing wrong with that, it's not too bad. We're gonna move on to On the Rocks. So you got 1 ounce of bourbon. I'm gonna drop in, we'll say 3 cubes, but again, being totally open out, so I'm going to drink this one pretty quick and get into it because I do not like watered down bourbon, just my own personal preference. We are in the rocks glass now. And as I expected, the nose has like fully dropped instantly, which is not my favorite. Just not my way to drink bourbon, but gotta be honest, and someday maybe it'll surprise me. I'm gonna jump right in there for a sip. Again, just my own personal opinion. It comes quite a bit flatter, and it really does drop that proof down pretty quickly. Can't really get much on the nose on this one either. A little bit more sugary notes on it now, I guess. And the color is very similar. I'm actually using a leather-wrapped customized glass from Whiskey Leatherworks in Kennebunkport, Maine. One of my favorite stores to go up in that area. We just actually went there for a pooch parade this past weekend. This, the ice added has definitely made it a lot more approachable if you are a newer or lower proof person, no matter what the spirit is, but that's most likely bourbon is. I'm going to say it's definitely made it a lot more approachable for those who enjoy it that way. But me personally, I like that whiskey to really speak and pack a little bit of a punch. Let me just tell you my score on this one. I usually feel like this is one of the quickest ones for me. Again, please, forgive me if this is the way you drink it, but I'm going to give this one a 4 for On the Rocks. A little side note too, I forgot to mention earlier, I actually just received 2 vintage ceramic Jim Beam decanters. My father-in-law actually gave me and my brother-in-law both of them because he knows we're into bourbon. I have a horse one and I have like this gold one that matches my office really nice. I ended up going in on a bid really, really low, expecting him not to accept, and he accepted. So I ended up winning a dog one, which kind of matches the theme of my office, and it also came with a, I think it's a deer or a buck, and again, I think it might be a different animal. I can't even tell. It's very old, but I'm just happy to got that in today as well. Let's jump right into Old Fashioned. Alright, for Old Fashioned again, out of 10 points, the ratio I use just to keep it a little bit lower. Normally I do like the full 2 ounces, but I have my nephew's game tonight, so I got 1 ounce of bourbon to about a 1/4 ounce of simple syrup. A little subjective. I kind of like it a little bit like 1 to a 1/4 versus 1 to a half. And then 2 drops of Anglo bitters, 1 of orange, and then 2 of black walnut. Alright, I'm going to give it a few swirls, get in there, and see what I think. Hold on a second. That's pretty good. So I tend to do my Old Fashions without ice. Again, I know the standard is usually like over the cube or a bunch of ice, but it is a little cold. And for those of you who know me personally, it usually means that it's from my whiskey fridge as well. But the glass was in my whiskey fridge. Let me think about this one. Nose is very orange, but again, I think that's straight from the actual cocktail itself. Is that like a little bit of orange in there? So I will also say that I tend to probably sound like I know a lot and I'm really tough on bourbons, but I think I'm just really lucky and privileged to actually be able to try such a variety and some really amazing whiskey on its own. And taste is super subjective, but I will say, if you know me well enough, you'll know that I have also really never had a bad bourbon, especially bad bourbon. I will say bourbon's my favorite spirit, then probably Scotch. I'd say bourbon and rye together. So maybe then bourbon, then rye, then Scotch. I definitely, I don't mind Irish. I don't necessarily love Canadian. Again, there's nothing I would say no to. That's just my personal preference. But I also wanted to explain to you why I do Old Fashions. Not Old Fashions, why I do blind tastings. And this is going to sound pretty maybe stuck up the way I'm going to say it, but to be honest with you, I feel like most people are like, well, it's from Buffalo Trace or it's from Wild Turkey, so it has to be a good product. Disagree. There are good and bad products from every distillery. And again, taste is super subjective. But I will also say that if you put some of those big names in a blind with some little names and some smaller distilleries, or like some up and coming distilleries or some local distilleries, I think you'd be surprised. So I always advise people to do blind tastings. It's just so fun to kind of put different bourbon up against different bourbon without knowing what it is. And sometimes if you can do it without having the names given to you for what they are, I think you'd be surprised, because you're not trying to search and prove that, like, oh, I definitely like Buffalo Trace over Wild Turkey. It's just my own personal opinion. This is delicious and old fashioned. I'm going to give it a 9. It stands up perfectly in the cocktail. I will say it's got to be like that lower 100, because it's not super proofy coming through, which I kind of tend to like 110, maybe like 115 in the cocktail, because I feel like it stands out nicely. But I'm going to give it a 9. All right, I'm going to jump back into neat for 1 second so I can give maybe potentially a guess on this before I jump in there. All right, this is just a complete out of left field guess. I'm going to guess something from the Bardstown Origin series. I think they come out between 92 and 96, but the two I'm thinking, I think it's going to be like 6-year, I think it's the Bottle and Bond small batch, I think it is. I can't remember the other one, just Bottle and Bond. So maybe it's the 6-year small batch or the Bottle and Bond. This is going to be my 2 guesses. I really do not think I'm even close on this one. I'm actually very stumped, but I will say, not to give myself an excuse, because we don't want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. But I think sitting by the fire and sitting outside has definitely changed things, because the fire is quite smoky. It is a windy day here in New England. We have a wind advisory, so I probably should have thought that through first and covered in smoke. But honestly, when I'm done with this, I'm going to sit out here and just enjoy it. But I'm going to go ahead and reveal what it is, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of information about it. I'm the one who did the line for me, so I have a bunch of sticky notes as it's outside. Not this one. One more. Weller Antique 107. JK, this is not it. So it is actually Weller Special Reserve. I was completely off. So I'm going to do a little research on this one for you, just give you the basic information. But it's a Buffalo Trace product. I know off the top of my head, I believe it's 90 proof. This is the green label, usually the lower end on the Weller Rainbow side. And I am 1 away from finishing the Weller Rainbow to Steve Weller single barrel. But let me give you a little information on it. So Weller Special Reserve is a wheated bourbon, which I'm a little surprised. And I was semi-close on my first guess, as it is lower proof, 90 proof to be exact, so 45 ABV. I believe the age statement is around 4 to 7 years from the research I'm seeing here. It's distillate from Buffalo Trace. As I said before, it's the green label. Again, pretty good product. I'm not going to complain. Everybody who knows bourbon knows Buffalo Trace pretty much, and knows Weller. A lot of people tend to chase Weller. I will say we're going to get into the hunting scene now, but I'll give you a little information about what's going on around. So, MSRP. Let me look that up right now. So I'm seeing an MSRP of around 25 to 35 for 750, and I know this bottle I picked up last Christmas around that time for about 50. Recently picked up another bottle and back up around like I think 35 or 38 was the price. Got pretty lucky on that one. Full transparency in my area, I'll be fully honest with you, it is not available. It is very hard to find. Occasionally you'll see it. There's a local liquor store that I got Weller 12 from a couple Christmases ago for like $50, and they have it sitting top shelf for over $100 for years now. So it is not readily available in my area. So let's jump into the breakdown of the hunting scene. So MSRP, for what it is, I will say it's a little bit lower proof than I would typically enjoy. I do enjoy the wheated bourbon stuff. 90 proof, MSRP for 25 to 35. I'm going to give that a 3. Nothing wrong with that. Price scene, I'm going to have to give that one a 1, unfortunately. You're looking from $35 or $25 to $35. Seeing it for 100, that's pretty close to triple plus, so I'm going to give it a 1. Availability, I'm going to go 0.5.
And then, would I buy it again? And the answer is definitely yes. It's a good pour. It's fun to have. Everybody who sees Weller appreciates it. I would buy it again. Again, I'd have to buy it at the MSRP. So that gives the hunting scene out of 10 a 5.5. Just a quick recap, we have neat at 7.4, water added at 6.5, on the rocks is a 4, and old fashioned at 5.5, and then the MSRP underneath the hunting scene is a 3, price scene is a 1, and availability is a 0.5. And then would you buy again? I would say yes, that's a 1 point. And out of 50 points, Weller Special Reserve, according to my tasting palette, has scored a 28.9. So again, out of 50, that's almost a 25. Again, if you're doing it blind, I think you'll find that your results would be very different than if you just knew it was Weller. And if you put that inside of a tasting lineup of 5 to 10 bourbons, you're going to search for it to prove how great it is, because you want to justify that price. That's just my personal opinion. That's why I always recommend throwing something in there blind. Like I said, I'm even a little bit surprised. 28.9. Like, Weller's a great pour. I had it for the first time at a work tasting remotely, and I was very fortunate to have it. This was got to be close to maybe 5 to 8 years ago. I was blown away with how good it was. But as you see in a blind, a little different than I expected. Thank you so much for, bearing in with me on the first time doing this. It's a little different doing it by yourself. I wasn't overly excited to do it by myself, but sometimes you just gotta try something different. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are, and if you want, you could even give me what you guess yours would be out of 50. But I totally think you'd be surprised if you actually jumped in there and did it yourself, fully blind. And again, you can't just be like, I want to do Weller blind and then just get that one. That's not gonna work. It's not blind. So you gotta do it fully blind sometime, and let me know what you think. I really appreciate you guys' time. Time is, as I always say, is something you can give but never get back. It is the most valuable and precious commodity we all have, and the one we mostly abuse the most. So I appreciate all the time you guys gave me. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe. And as always, drink safely and always drink with a friend. Cheers. Bye.